Okay, we are picking up on Hey Amud Beis. We are a few lines from the bottom. We are one line from the bottom. It says the Gemara is picking up now, and it's saying we're trying to find out what the connection is for the cities of Chamas, Rakas, and Kinneret, and it's going to go into why they were called that, where the cities come from, which cities were called what, and then there's going to be a great story with Shevet Zvulun and the way that they viewed their inheritance of Eretz Yisrael. So, I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Ki avina Talia, when I was a young child, Amina Milsa de Shalana L'Savi, I said something to the people, to the older people that were living in the city, turning to Vav Amud Aleph, and when I said, they enjoyed what I was saying, and they said that the halacha was like what I was saying. What is it that he told them? He said, Chamas Tveria, that when we find in Navi, the Chamas, so Chamas is referring to the city of Tiberia. V'lama nikra shema Chamas, why was it called Chamas? Shum Chamei Tiberia, because of the hot springs of Tiberia, so they would call it Chamas, because Cham means warm, so they would refer to, when they were referring to Tiberia, they would refer to as Chamas, that's Chamas Tiberia. The next city, Rakas zu Tzipori. Rakas is referring to the city of Tzipori. V'lama nikra shema Rakas, why was it called Rakas? Mishum de Medallia kekarkasa denara, because it was high up like a riverbank. Which is the word karkasa is means like a riverbank. So just like the riverbank is higher up than the water is, so this city was higher up than everyone. All right, it's not too late. Just jump on in. And the last city, Kinneret Ginsar, the city of when we refer in Navi, where we find the city of Kinneret, that's referring to Ginsar. And V'lama Nikra Shema Kinneret, so why was it called Kinneret? The Miski Peira, you call it the Kinri because its fruits were very sweet, and if you remember, we had the Gemara in Brachos that talked about Rabbi Yochanan that they used to eat these sweet fruits that when he used to sweat, and they were talking about that it would be part of like a Suda that they would bench on it because the fruits were so sweet that they were like something that no one had ever seen before. People would line up, they would bring in baskets and baskets of it, and he would just keep eating all these sweet fruits that they brought him. So now the Gemara is going to question how you know to say that Chamas is Tiberia. It's going to show some reasons where we're going to say that that's not the case. So Amar Rava, Mi Ikal Amanda Amar Rakas Lav Tiberia. Is there anyone that says that Rakas, which we refer to as Tzipori, right? We said it's Rakas and Tzipori because it's very high up. Is there anyone that says that Rakas is not Tiberia? But when a person dies in Bavel, so Hasam Safti Lehachi, when in Tiberia, which Rashi says it's referring to Tiberia, in Eretz Yisrael and Tiberia, they refer to him as like this, and they say, Gadalhu b'Sheshech v'Shem lo barakas, that he was great in Bavel is Sheshech because there's something called Atbash, that if you take the letters of the Aleph Beis and you go in the reverse, it's called Atbash. So if you take the word Sheshach, it translates into Bavel. So Sheshach, when someone was he was very great in Bavel, and he has a name here in Rakas in Tiberia. So the Gemara is going to go on a little bit more, but you see that Rakas was referring to Tiberia and not to Tzipori. Anyway, what else did they say? V'chimaski Aron elahasima, when they bring the Aron to Tiberia to bury him, Safti lehach, they would give the following hesped on him: Ave shiridim yoshvei Rakas, that the people who love Eretz Yisrael, the people who live in Rakas, Tzu v'kiblu harugei omek, come and receive the dead of the deep. Bavel is referred to deep because it's lower down. So again, you see that Rakas was referred to as Tiberia and not Tzipori. So how could we say before Rabbi Yochanan said, I said this as a child, and they said I was right? You see, it's not the case. And when Reb Zera died, there was they used to have professional eulogy givers. So this certain eulogizer said, Eretz Shinar Harav Yalda, that the land of Shinar gave birth to Reb Zera, because that's where he lived when he was younger. And Eretz Tzvi Gidla Shashueha, and the land of the beautiful land, which is referring to Eretz Yisrael. So that's the one that raised him. Because again, referring to him because he moved to Eretz Yisrael. So woe is to Rakas because it lost this precious instrument that it had of Reb Zera. But anyway, so we see from here that it has to be that Chamas was not referring to Tiberia. So therefore, the Gemara says, Chamas zu Chamei Grar. Chamas was referring to the city of Chamei Grar. Rakas zu Tiberia. Rakas is Tiberia. Kinneret zu Ginsar, which is what we said before. That didn't change. And V'lama Nikra Shema Rakas. Why was it called Rakas? Shafil Reikanin Sheba Milei Mitzvos Karima. That even the people who were sinners but they were still filled with mitzvos. So you could see that it could be that someone was not a good person, he did a lot of aveiros, but even the people that did a lot of aveiros, they still had a very strong good side to them as well. I think as Rabbi Silber said in Sefer Chasidus, he says, it's okay to be a sinner, right? He says, you don't want to be like flat. You don't want to have nothing. If you're flat, that means that there's nothing going on. If you're a sinner, it means that you have potential, that you're going up and you're going down. So that's so he says there is some benefit to sinning because it shows that you have the ability to change and you have passion inside of you, which is important. This can't be on a steady flat line. Rabbi Yirmiyah Rakas Shema, that the Rakas is the name, and Tiberia is not the real name. Tiberia is just a descriptive name. Why would they call it Tiberia? Because it sits in the middle of Eretz Yisrael. That geographically it's located right about the mid-center of it means the navel. So it's like the midpoint of Eretz Yisrael. Rabba Amar, and Rabba says Rakas Shema, that the name is Rakas, V'lam Nirka Shema Tiberia. Why was it called Tiberia? Shetova Riyasa, because the Tiberia is Tov Riyasa, that it's pleasant in appearance, that it had very nice gardens, it had very nice orchards, so it's very pleasant to look at, so that's why they would call it Tiberia. Amar Ze'era, Kitron Zu Tzipori. Kitron is Tzipori, V'lam Nirka Shema Tzipori, Sheosheves B'ro Shahar Katzipor, because it sits up like on the top of a mountain like a bird. The Kitron Tzipori here, are you going to say that Kitron was Tzipori? But Kitron B'chelko Shel Zvulun Havi, that Kitron was located in Eretz Yisrael, was in the portion of Zvulun. D'chsiv, Zvulun, Lo Horish, Es Yoshvei Kitron, Ves Yoshvei Nahalo. Uzvulun, Misraim, Amidosov Haya. They were very unhappy with the portion that they had received in Eretz Yisrael, which is going to, Gemara is going to say an incredible thing now. Shenemar, Zvulun, Am Cheref, Naf Shalom. It said Zvulun was a people which was very ashamed of where it lived. So what happened? What was the story referring to about Zvulun? So he says, the story is referring to at the time of Sisera, that Zvulun joined in to help protect everyone else, which at first seemed like it was a great thing. But then when Zvulun came in, and when they saw what the other portions of what Naphtali's portion looked like, they started to feel very bad for themselves. Which there's a vart on that says that, I think it says in Parsha Shoftim, that it says that it goes through a whole bunch of people that don't have to go to war. Right? It says someone built a house and he wasn't able to live in it, then he doesn't have to go to war because he's afraid he's going to die and someone else is going to live in it. If someone got engaged to a woman and he didn't get to marry her, again, he doesn't have to go to war, he's afraid he's going to die, and then someone else is going to marry her. And if someone planted vineyards, the same thing, he didn't get to do anything, and someone else is going to marry her. So why does the Torah have to say that someone else is going to marry her? Why does it say he's afraid that he built a house and he's going to die? So the answer is because it bothers him that he did and he's not going to be able to use it, and it bothers him even more that someone else has something that he was going to get and he didn't get it. So Zvulun, who had a very nice portion in Eretz Yisrael, as the Gemara is going to talk about now, but when he saw he was very happy with what he had. But when he saw what Naphtali had, when he went out to fight with them in war, so then he realized, oh, you know what? I'm happy with what I have, but I could have even, even though I thought my life was going good, when I look at what someone else has, if I'm comparing it to someone else, so you got to learn to kind of stay in your own lane. So what was the story that happened? Matam, Mishum de Naphtali, Amrome Sara, because Naphtali was in a very high place. Amar Zvulun lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Zvulun said to Hashem, Ribbono shel olam, La'achai nasati lahem sodos ukram. You gave to my brothers, you gave them fields and vineyards. V'li nasati har migvos. You gave me mountains and you gave me hills. La'achai nasati lahem aratzos. You gave my brothers to the other shvatim. You gave them lands. V'li nasati yam and haros. And you gave me lakes and rivers. And what can I do with them? So Amar Lo, so Hashem said to him, Kulan tzrich lecha alidei chilazon. They're all going to need you because of the chilazon. The chilazon was the creature, it was like a snail that made a certain dye that was used in the Beis HaMikdash. And all the shvatim are going to have to come to you to get the chilazon, which is located in your sea, in your portion. Everyone's going to have to come to you to get it. Shenamar amim har yikro ushvunei tumunei chol. So Tani Rabbi Yosef, Shvunei Zeh Chilazon, that's referring to the Chilazon. Tamunei Zu Tirius, that's referring to Tirius, which is some sort type of tuna fish, which was a very good fish that they caught. And Chol, the sand, is Zu Chchuchis Levana, that's referring to white glass, that they would make this very expensive white glass out of the white sand, out of the sand that Zvulun had in his portion. So Zvulun, Hashem was saying to him, you have great things in your territory, what are you complaining about? So Zvulun said to Hashem, Ribbono shel olam, Mimo dieni, who's going to tell me if they're taking it? Because these are natural resources. So how am I going to know if someone's shipping out in my part of my lakes and rivers, and someone's going to start taking the chilazon? Or how am I going to know if someone comes onto the beach and takes sand? It's not like I'm selling it to them, it's a natural resource. So who's going to come tell me if they're taking it? So Amar Lo, Hashem said to him, Sham yizbechu zivchei tzedek, Simon Zeh Yehelecha, you're going to have this following Simon. Kol anotim mimcha below dam. Whoever takes anything from you without paying you for it, eino mo parmaktia shelo klom. He's not going to get any benefit at all. Either if he takes the chilazon, then the dye is not going to come out working well, or if he takes his sand without paying for it, then it's going to turn out that the glass isn't going to end up lasting. It's going to break very easily. So, but the Gemara asks now, the whole reason why we brought this down is because we're trying to prove where the cities are located. And if you're going to tell me that Kitron is Tzipori, why was Zvulun unsatisfied with the portion that he had gotten in Eretz Yisrael? Tzipori was considered to be a very, very good piece of land. So what was the problem that he had? Maybe you're going to say that even though it was a nice piece of land, but the less beizavas chalav dvash, it wasn't like we always refer to Eretz Yisrael as a land flowing with milk and honey. I saw that in Tzipori they have it. It was 16 mil by 16 mil. So you see that they did have this land of milk and honey. And just as an aside, Rashi brings down that when it says that it's a land of milk and honey, like I always had this vision of like one of these cartoon brooks where it shows that milk and honey is flowing. So Rashi brings down, he says that there were these goats that would eat date figs, which had a lot of honey in them. And they were so succulent that the honey would spill out as the goats were eating them, and then it would mix with the milk. Their udders were so filled with milk, and that would cause that there was milk and honey that was flowing. That's what it's referring to when it says a land of milk and honey, which, as Rashi says it is. I've never seen that before. So and maybe you're going to say that Zvulun was complaining that even though he had milk and honey, but he didn't have as good as the rest of the Shvatim did in the rest of Eretz Yisrael. I know how much the whole land of Eretz Yisrael had of milk and honey. And it was like the space, the difference of from Bekubi to Gublani, which was Esrim Nitzart in Parsi, Urcha Pus Yashisa Parsi, which was 22 parsos and 6 parsos wide. So basically, through my ability of math and from Art Scroll, I know that means that Zvulun had 1/8 of the amount of Eretz Zavas Chalav Udvash as the rest of Eretz Yisrael. So what was he complaining about? He had beautiful lands, and he had Eretz Zavas Chalav Udvash. He had more than what he was entitled to get. So Gemara says, "Afilu hachi." Even so, that he had these things, Saros Kram Madifale, it was still better to have fields and vineyards. And again, and Dekanami. And how do we see that? T'chsiv Naftali Amarome Sada. That Naphtali was he was in the high place of the field, which was what Zvulun noticed when he went into to fight with him against Sisera. So therefore, you see from there that Zvulun really wanted to have these fields and the lands rather than to have the rivers and seas that had the chilazon, and rather have these sands that produced the white glass. Amar Bavo, the Ekron Tiyakar. So now we're talking about the city of Ekron. Ekron is going to be uprooted. What was the city of Ekron? Zukisari Bas Edom She Yosheves Bein Hacholos. This was Caesarea, there were many cities called Caesarea in those days because it was named after the Caesar. So this was Caesarea, which was located there. It was a real pain for Klal Yisrael in the days of the Greeks. When the Chashmonaim came and they were victorious over them, they would call it that they captured the Tower of Shir, but it was called Ikar Ekron because it was eventually going to be uprooted. That was the reason why it was called that. Rav Yossi Bar Chanina, my T'chsiv Varosi Dami Mipiv Shkutza Miben Shina V'nishar Gam Hu Le'Elokeinu, that he would take out these the blood from his mouth and these disgusting things that were caught between his teeth. So he says it's referring to Avodah Zarah. V'harisosi Dama Mipiv, what does that refer to? Zebeis B'maya Shalahan, that's referring to one house of Avodah Zarah that they had in B'maya. V'shukatza Miben Shina, and he took out these disgusting things that were caught between his teeth. Zebeis Galia Shalahan, this is referring to the house of Galia, which was also a house of Avodah Zarah. V'nishar Gam Hu Le'Elokeinu, this will be left over for our God. Elu Batim Nesiyos Batim Midrasha Sheba Edom, these were the places that the Bnei Yisrael would learn when they were in Edom. And continuing on that, it says V'haya Ka'alef Yehuda V'Ekron Kivusi, that he should be like someone like a chief in Yehuda, and he should be like also like a prince in Yevusi. Elu Treatarios V'Kirsayos Sheba Edom, these were the theaters and the stadiums that they had in Edom. Shasid and Sar Yehuda Lalami Behantaras Barabim, Ksavim, that in future they're going to have that Klal Yisrael is going to be able, even though they're using it for their entertainment purposes, but in the future you're going to have the Jews are going to be able to use it for their entertainment purposes, which we kind of would like the Sima Shas was held in MetLife Stadium. I was on the field for that, and they needed big people to fill up the crowd. So, but I was in MetLife Stadium, so that you see that it comes true that these things that they built it for one reason, but eventually the Bnei Yisrael are able to use it for different purposes. A little bit more about the city of Ekron. Amar Rav Yitzchak. Leshem zu Pamayas, that Leshem is referring to Pamayas, Ekron Te'aker, and Ekron's going to be uprooted. Zu Kesari Bas Edom, Shi Haisa, Mitarplion Shel Melach, and this was like the metropolis of the Romans. So it was called that for one of two reasons. Either because that's the place where kings were raised in that area, they were taught how to be kings. And some say because that's where they were appointed. If you're talking about Caesarea and Yerushalayim, so we're going to talk about the Romans and about the Jews. So if someone tells you that both of the cities, Yerushalayim, Chas v'Shalom, was destroyed, and don't believe if someone says that both of them were destroyed. Yashru Shteihen al Tamin. If you say that both of them are doing well, also don't believe them either that's happening either. If someone says Charva Kesari Yashru Yerushalayim, if someone says that either Caesarea was destroyed and Yerushalayim is doing well, or Charva Yerushalayim of Chas v'Shalom, they said that Yerushalayim was destroyed, Yashru Kesari, but Caesarea is doing well. Tem, and then you can believe him. Shnemar Imale Hacharava, that it says that I'm going to fill them up. What does that mean? Imaleyazu Charvazu. Imaleyazu Charvazu. That if this one's doing well, the other one's going to be destroyed, and if this one's doing well, then the other one's going to be destroyed. So you can't have it that both are doing well at the same time. And similarly, the Gemara says, that when Rivka was pregnant, so she found that the twins were kicking inside of her. She didn't know what was going on. She knows she was having twins, and then she heard that when one is doing well, that one's doing, when one's stronger, the other one's going to be weaker. So that's the same thing. We have this concept that when the Romans are doing well, the Jews are not going to do well, and vice versa. When the Jews are doing well, the Romans are not going to be doing well. Let's do one more piece. Yeah. Rav Yitzchak, my Dechsiv, Yuchan Rasha, Baal Lamed Tzedek. What does it mean that he's good, that you're going to show favor to someone who is a Rasha and he's going to become a tzaddik? Amr Yitzchak l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Yitzchak was advocating for his son. So he says, so Yitzchak said to Hashem, Ribbono shel Olam, Yuchan Esav, let show favor to Esav. So Amar Lo, so Hashem says back to him, Rasha, he's a Rasha. I don't want to show favor to him. So Amar Lo, Baal Lama Tzedek, is there nothing that you could do? You can't find any good qualities about him that you're going to be able to save him, that he should have tzidkas to him. So Amar Lo, so Hashem says back to Yitzchak, Beretz L'chochos Yavel. He says eventually it says that the land is going to be he's going to deal with it wrong. What does that mean? That he's eventually going to destroy Yerushalayim. So Amar Lo in Cain, Uva Yireh Geis Hashem. He says, if so, then let him not behold Hashem. Let him not have anything to do with it. Okay, we'll stop here, and tomorrow night we will Hashem pick up after Marav, after the Sefer Chasidus share.